Good evening, please, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Wednesday, November 13, 2024. Making the headlines tonight, authorities monitoring nearby system that could make landfall in Belize by Monday. The PM says discussions at KHMHA board are confidential, and SSB noting growing trend of cancer cases. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
at its best. Equal Opportunities Bill. Belize, we're ready.
Welcome back. With your news, I am Marisol Amaya. The likelihood for the system in the Western Caribbean to develop into Tropical Cyclone 19 with the potential to become Tropical Storm Sarah in the next 2 days has increased. There is the potential it could make landfall in Belize. Rainfall associated with this system is expected from as early as this evening and through to Saturday. Predictions are for daily totals of 1 to 2 inches and locally higher values. The National Emergency Authorities are scheduled to hold a press conference at 9 tomorrow morning. For its part, the City Emergency Management Organization, CEMO, is active and monitoring the nearby system. Today, Mayor Bernard Wagner spoke about preparedness.
Yeah, our City Emergency Management Organization works very closely with NEMO and the Met Office, and we are closely monitoring the track of this system here. But we stand ready as a city. We hope it never comes to fruition. We never want to be impacted by any hurricane or disaster, because the fact is that it really sets you back as a country, and especially as a municipality that has its own struggles.
Mayor Wagner also said more rain will affect the already damaged streets and calls for city residents to have patience.
We have done some work, and you can see it. MIDH, I must commend them for putting some work on the highways coming into the city. We are still getting the sort of resources we need to rehabilitate those streets, but it doesn't make sense that you go and fix streets right now and by weekend a lot of rain come again. So you got to hold on. People have to leave patience, exercise patience overall, and we get things work together.
On September 27, 2021, upon making the announcement of a new CEO taking over at the KHMH, the government also announced a significant move. Their release at the time stated, quote, "In what we feel is a historic decision and one long overdue, the Minister of Health and Wellness, Honorable Marisol has requested that the laws governing the KHMHA be amended to allow for the KHMHA Workers Union to have a seat on the board to ensure that all employees' concerns are addressed at the board level and also to further ensure transparency and accountability," end quote. Fast forward 3 years, and it appears that appointment has caused friction. As you may recall, at the October 18 House meeting this year, a bill was tabled to amend the relevant act to change out the staff union representative for a representative from the umbrella organization for unions, the NTUCB. The KHMHA Workers Union backed at that proposition, and after discussions with relevant parties, the PUP administration walked back on its intention to have the act amended as long as the current president of the board, that is president of the union, Andrew Baird, is replaced by another member of the KHMHA Workers Union. Speaking about the matter, the Prime Minister betrayed that the appointment was a mere courtesy. He said only done deals ought to be communicated to membership by the union member on the board, rather than the appointment serving as a mechanism to address issues at the highest levels and nip crisis in the bud.
No, it was not a matter of any kind of misunderstanding. Basically, we appointed a member of the union in good faith, feeling that they can come in and contribute. Unfortunately, the member did not understand that you're not there as a union member. Yes, you come from the union and the union put you there, but deliberations in a board, they are confidential. You just can't run to your union and say, hey, that's what we're discussing, because then it creates a lot of trauma within board members. So board members were hesitant in speaking openly because the board member, thinking that he is doing his job in good faith, was going and creating all of these problems. The minister felt, with some consultation, not large consultation, but with BNT, NTUCB, sorry, NTUCB, that wanting to keep a member from the unions, figure that if we could put a member from the NTUCB on the board, they do not have a direct, they are not directly involved in the day-to-day affairs of the hospital. So they felt that they could take a more sober look at what's going on in the decision making. So when he came to cabinet, we were a bit hesitant, but he was persistent in making the case, and so we agreed. Now that it was introduced, it is unfortunate that the unions from the union members from the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital did not come to the Senate, to the House Committee to register their support. On a meeting I had, I think it was 2 Fridays ago? Yeah, 2 Fridays ago with the NTUCB, that was one of the issues that was brought up. There was a member representing the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital Union, and that member, well, apologized for what was going on. And so I said, listen, I don't think we need to fight. All of us want what is best for the hospital. So I said, what if you were to give us 2 names and then we try to pick who best fit in the board? And they immediately did. That member and the entire NTUCB said, yes, I think that's a good compromise. But secondly, the members from the NTUCB explained to Mr. Roy Briceño, he's not my relative, but from Oranjo Acton, I know him very well. They explained to him, he says, listen, all of us, meaning NTUCB, we are in different boards. We're in BTL board, Social Security, but that does not mean that as soon as the Social Security meeting is finished, I could go and report what's going on. I can only report after decision was made. And he fully understood. And I think, all's well that ends well. And I think that it has ended well with the union.
So to be clear, you all, it's the who will pick the member after the 2 names?
Well, they will give us 2 names, and then of course then the minister will pick the person that he believes would be best fit in the board.
Okay, good.
Thank you,
PM,
sir.
thank you so much for your time.
We appreciate it.
Gracias.
The KHMH has over 500 employees. Last week, the CEO for the Social Security Board, Dr. Leroy Almendarez, confirmed that they are seeing an increase in the number of cancer-related claims from both men and women. He spoke about the help they can receive.
There is an increased prevalence, and there are 2 ways that gets addressed. Remember now, due to illness, you can also be unable to work anymore. The question is whether or not you have reached retirement age, because retirement age is at 60. If it's prior to that, then that's where we have grants and pensions, right? You can get a lump sum grant or something like that. The other avenue that we use, Jules, is that we have our Social Security Development Assistance. Because of the prevalence, there are many, not only women, but men as well, who have cancer cases, and there are allocations that are given through that committee to assist these individuals as well.
In related news, at the close of Tuesday's House meeting, House Speaker Honorable Valerie Woods made the devastating public announcement that she has been diagnosed with breast cancer and must undergo treatment.
Members, before I put the question to adjourn, I feel obliged to inform members that my presiding over the meetings of this House for the remainder of the parliamentary session may be affected in the coming weeks due to my recent diagnosis of breast cancer. Now, while I fully intend to discharge my duties, I hope you can understand that I may have to be absent as I undergo treatment. So it goes. So, thank you for your understanding.
The People's United Party's United Women's Group, UWG, expressed profound empathy with the Speaker, describing her announcement as courageous, given that she chose to disclose a personal health challenge and doing so on her birthday. The Women's Group recognizes the Speaker's shining leadership and contributions to society, championing fairness, equality, and women's empowerment. they have committed to stand with her during this trying period. While addressing the backlash from the attempt to switch out a staff union representative from the Carl Hushner Memorial Hospital Authority Board, Minister of Health and Wellness, Honorable Kevin Bernard, revealed that if it were left up to him, he'd have the hospital come under the management of central government rather than remaining as a statutory board. Here is his reasoning.
I have my own position that I would want to see KHMH come under the Ministry of Health. That's my view. Then there will be no need for a board. However,
removing it as a statutory board, changing that?
Like I am saying, that would be my position. However, we are not in that direction. We are not going to do that. But I'm just saying, if you ask me about my personal opinion, that would have been the best option. Best option. Every time we get calls reference KHMH, who gets the call? It's the ministry. It believes people understand that there is a statutory body, it's managed by a board, it's managed by a board of governors.
After the break, a road traffic accident claims the life of yet another motorcyclist. Stay with us.
Arrived and dead. Freetown Drugstore, telephone 223-2876.
Welcome back. The news continues. A construction worker identified as Juan Carlos Castellanos lost his life in Orange Walk last night after he collided into a freight truck while riding his motorcycle. The incident happened sometime around 9 on Tate Street as the truck was making a left turn onto Munoz Lane. Castellanos was pronounced dead on arrival at the Northern Regional Hospital. At the time, he was heading to pick up his common-law wife from work. In other news, Yaya Marin Coleman, the chairperson of the UBAD Educational Foundation, UEF, today entered day 2 of her street protest for national hair legislation. The protest is being done every other Wednesday in front of the Belize District Education Center on Mahogany Street in Belize City. We spoke with Yaya this morning after comments made by the Minister of Education when asked about her first day of protest that there is already a hair policy for schools. Before that, though, Yaya shared other facets of her protest.
The new add-on to that is, as you can see, I have an African-inspired hairstyle. That's my intention, as long as the pocket can afford it, to have one African-inspired hairstyle, because that's the right of Belizean students for go to school, for get one education, regardless of the hairstyle. Not just for all Belizean students. UBAD Educational Foundation focus on African descendants racialized as black people, and so, well, that I represent. So in 2022, Angola, the first Caribbean country to my knowledge, will pass one hair policy. For then students could go to school with twists, with braids, with locks, with wigs, with protective hairstyles. Even if they wear long braids, they have to put the braids up. So I still have some limitations regarding color as well. No, that was Anguilla. Remember in 2023, Trinidad and Tobago changed for their one, made some amendments, and in 2024, Puerto Rico. So Belize, they're on the cusp for make the changes, and when you read the literature, it has a lot to do with former enslavers, colonizers, in the Caribbean, primarily we talk English, in the Anglophile Caribbean, I think they call it. That's where school rules come from. At the point when Belize get political independence, they never have no awareness campaign for get input from Belizeans. We only want change what the colonizers does have, and we only want have what really represent the interests of the people who call themselves Belizeans. They just take most of the education system, which are church state system, which are human rights violation as well, the government system, the court system, just about every system of the state that from the colonizer European perspective worldview.
She also spoke of people sharing their experiences with discrimination over their children's hair and invited Belizeans to join in the campaign.
And so you have to encourage Belizeans to participate. You can come out here and protest, or there's a hashtag BZE Hair Law 2024. And then for the days of the protest, for your profile picture, cover picture, for Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, any one of the platforms there, you can put on a picture of yourself with your natural hair, with a protective hairstyle, your children there with their natural hair, if that's how you want to express your solidarity. But you can expect, as this campaign continues to grow and build, that there are new add-ons. They have different ways. Today I call WB, I listen to the most saying that I should have one Zoom link. I never even think about that. I don't want any people who like technology, but they want good recommendation. I want to try it and see how it works. But remember, Belizean people, that for we children to get traumatized, that for we, what we teach we children when the children they know it wrong, and then the adults that are nothing for comfort for them defense. One taxi driver stopped me just now and say, I don't know that this week or last week they send home a youth from one Southside primary school. I said, watch I have to send $15 at school for lunch. That $15 to cut the youth hair. It's a human rights violation. Children should have access to education. That's what the Constitution of Belize say. That's why you have the whole state accountable that enough for this Minister of Education, Francis Fonseca, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ministry, the Chief Education Officer of the Ministry, and under the former administration for just give lip service whenever a story is reported in the news for set on a violation. They have the duty to enforce the law, for make sure all schools know that there's a law that says this never happened, and if it happened, this is the penalty. So we never again get to another report of one Belizean student rights being violated from no go to school because of how they wear their hair. Remember, only the people will save the people.
As we shared, Yaya has been adamant that there will be a national hair legislation. We asked how she sees things playing out given the comments from the minister.
Well, I know that righteousness always prevails, no matter how long it takes, righteousness prevails. UEF will send an email to the person I spoke to. I don't call the person name. We head the policy unit on St. Thomas Street. I will send an email. So when I want to come back again, hopefully it answer the email. Even if you don't answer the email, the evidence on it that I send and ask, okay, put it in a writing that we don't have one policy. And then the media house need to tell the minister, show where the policy we still have. Circulars, emails, memo, that don't want policy. That the individual communication between the Ministry of Education and schools where they get a report about a violation that one child can't go to school because that's all here a rule where one school make. I need to teach the Minister of Education what one policy mean. I need to teach the Minister of Education what a policy look like. I mean, if I need for that, UEF no mind of that. And UEF willing because we the lead it. If there's any other group of people who the lead this cause, you contact me because I never hear about it yet, me don't know about it. So since we the lead on behalf of African descendants racialized as black people, then UEF need to sit down at the table with the Ministry of Education for draft one hair law for Belize. No, rightfully so, other people will identify other than African descendants racialized as black people should do that too. But only if I have credibility. Only if I got evidence that only represent the people who want to say only represent. I don't lot of councils, don't go sit down somewhere. Only just talking.
Yaya, as part of her campaign, has also been calling into the WB Morning Vibes show to address the discrimination. Her hairstylist is Malika Wagner. She can be reached at 664-8227. On Monday, the Senate did not pass a motion to appoint Deputy Auditor General Maria Rodriguez to the post of Acting Auditor General for 4 months. The government explained that this would give them enough time to find a qualified individual to fill the post. Today, Honorable Henry Usher called the move short-sighted and said he believes it was spearheaded by the opposition. He also called out the union representative for not supporting the motion.
I think that this was a move spearheaded by the opposition, really to spite the government, but it was a really short-sighted move. Why? For 2 reasons. It's better to have an Auditor General in place, even an acting Auditor General. The process is ongoing in terms of the advertisement for the post. I think 5 individuals at the last check had applied for the post. The deadline was last week, Thursday. And there is a procedure to go through in terms of the interview, etc. So eventually a full-time Auditor General will be in place. But in that interim, that 4-month interim, you want to have an acting Auditor General. There are certain things that the Auditor General has to sign off on. And one of them is some allowances for auditors. Now what I found surprising is that the representative for the unions also did not support this resolution, because the unions, especially the PSU, has been advocating that these allowances for these auditors be paid. There was some issue with the last Auditor General in terms of she didn't agree with all of the allowances, but the investigation has been done by Public Service, by Finance, and these allowances need to be paid. But now, instead of spiting the government, this union representative is spiting his own members, because now they can't be paid because we don't have an Auditor General to sign off on these particular allowances. So really, it was short-sighted.
Usher also responded to comments made by UDP Senator Michael Parafit, who suggested that Rodriguez would be without a job after the 4 months have passed.
And let me just clear up this point that I think the senator for the UDP, Mike Parafit, tried to make, that after the 4 months Ms. Rodriguez does not have a job. Absolutely false. Absolute misinformation. Ms. Rodriguez is currently the Deputy Auditor General. She was appointed, or the resolution was attempted to be passed for her to be appointed as Acting Auditor General, but after those 4 months, she still has a job as Deputy Auditor General. It's not like she will lose a job. So that point he was making about, oh, they will not want to do anything against the government because it's only a 4-month contract, total misinformation, and I'm surprised that he would try to mislead the Belizean people that way.
At this time, we share the final part of my Gillnet update, produced with the support of Internews's Earth Journalism Network. As recently as August this year, Acting Fisheries Administrator Quintana declared that no funding was provided to the department for the enforcement of the gillnet ban. However, Dr. Cho said there was never any request from the sponsors to also supply enforcement funds to government. He also shared his opinion that because the enforcement demands of the Fisheries Department were so high, quote, it's always used as a convenient reason why certain things can't be done, end quote.
So there was no discussion around money for enforcement. Enforcement was always on the front burner of the Fisheries Department. The Fisheries Department was always wary of what additional burden would be placed on their rangers and their officers to enforce the ban, to make sure people aren't using gillnets. So the ban itself was then crafted in a way that it was meant to, or intended to reduce the burden on enforcement.
Dr. Cho explained that they decided on an outright ban rather than a soft ban only in some areas because they considered that a total ban in our marine waters would make enforcement logistically easier. Though enforcement was a concern, Dr. Cho said they did not consider it a game changer given that patrols were already being done. Meanwhile, since the change in government right after the gillnet ban, Quintana, the top official in the Fisheries Department, has accused the gillnet ban sponsors of not being forthcoming about the list of fishers who benefited from the transition funds. At the second Fisheries Council meeting on October 28, 2021, Quintana told the members that though fishers, NGOs, and fishers cooperatives had a differing view on the gillnet ban, quote, the agreement was still signed by the government of Belize and the coalition, end quote. He said the sponsors somehow convinced the government to do so and then made the astonishing revelation that the Fisheries Department does not agree, that only the fishers on the 2018 list should have been compensated. Quintana advised that the council needed to request an update on the compensation program to, quote, make recommendations to the ministry about how to treat those other fishers that were not included in the 2018 compensation program, end quote. Oceana affirms in response that the Fisheries Department was the entity that put together the 2018 list of fishers and, quote, any gaps are their responsibility, end quote. Indeed, Dr. Cho believes that Quintana, who held the most senior post after the fisheries administrator at the time, had input in validating the list of eligible fishers. In the FOIA response, Quintana made the peculiar complaint that, quote, the department was not provided with a copy of the confidential agreement signed between the government of Belize, the Coalition for Sustainable Fisheries, and Oceana in Belize, end quote. To this, Alex Anderson responded in frustration.
I cannot see how a minister would sign onto something and you say as fishers, oh, I don't have a copy, go to the ministry and get it. It's your ministry, man.
Whereas some coalition members up to August this year were of the opinion that gillnets would be banned in all freshwater bodies, that is, rivers, creeks, streams, lagoons, or other inland watercourses in Belize, the government in a press release dated December 5, 2019, announcing the impending ban, stated clearly, that it was intended to, quote, expand the area of sea in which the use of gill nets is forbidden, end quote. That's because, as per Aside number 78 of 2011, there were already applicable regulations and restrictions for the use of gill nets in freshwater bodies.
We specifically excluded from the shoreline going inland, so freshwater areas. But it's not to say that there are certain restrictions on using gill nets in freshwaters. There's a lot of restrictions.
Gill nets could not be used 5 miles seaward off the coast of Placencia and Monkey River, within a radius of 1 mile from a bridge or half mile from the outfall of a tributary, and in the New River Lagoon and its tributaries. Gill nets were allowed and are currently allowed everywhere else in freshwater bodies on land. This is clear to some conservationists and authorities. The BFF told Creme News XTV in June this year that there were extensive discussions on gillnet use in freshwater bodies with no agreement reached, whereas TAT shared that at the task force level it was indicated that gillnet use would continue to be allowed in Crooked Tree only. To address what seems to be a discrepancy in the minds of some regarding legal definitions of water bodies, we sought clarification from the International Maritime Organization, IMO, and from Dr. Maria Lourdes Palomares from the Sea Around Us Research Unit, what all bodies of water fall under internal waters based on the definitions in the United Nations Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. They explained that the mandate of UNCLOS is limited to sea waters, but also includes brackish or estuarine waters, that is, river mouths where rivers meet or empty into the sea. Dr. Palomares said, quote, purely freshwater areas are not included in this, end quote. To overturn the gillnet ban, the Fisheries Department would have to follow strict and clear guidelines set out in the August 2020 gillnet ban agreement between government and the sponsors. However, if the last few years could serve as proof, the success and effectiveness of the ban has already been greatly diminished. Reporting for Creme News XTV, I am Marisol Amaya. After the break, Trump's victory is expected to impact the fight against climate change. Stay tuned.
A damaged fender or bumper, but for us, it's our lives.
COP29 is currently taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is a country on the boundary of Europe and Asia. The Belize delegation will include Honorable Orlando Habet, Minister of Sustainable Development and Climate Change, who will leave the country on Friday. Habet said once more they are tasked with pressuring developed countries help fund efforts to tackle the effects of climate change on developing countries. Habet will not only be representing Belize, but also the region.
My responsibility, though, apart from Belize, is that I have been selected to champion the cause for AOSIS and CARICOM, and of course CARICOM are also considered small island developing states, and so we are members of AOSIS. So our job will be to still seek out the possibility of advancing the NCQG to see how we can upscale the financing that is coming through for climate change and make certain that we try to get as much as possible. As you realize, the past finance goal was $100 billion per year. Now countries are saying that is not enough. It took too long to obtain that $100 billion. So they're trying to see how else we can do it. But there are some of the developed countries who are still holding back and not wanting to contribute the funding that they were committed to do under the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement has this Article 9, which goes 9.1, 2, 3, I think up to 0.9, where it clearly states that developed countries will contribute the financing for developing countries. It also states that these finances have to be transparent, so you have to know where it's coming from, where it's going, how much it's supposed to go to mitigation, and we are advocating that more money are supposed to go to adaptation. And of course, we want to also look at the position of the loss and damage fund.
Minister Habet expressed disappointment that developed countries are still not assisting as they agreed, and that some countries, including Belize, have explored whether court action could be a possibility.
Based on the way these agreements are framed, especially the 3 Rio Conventions, they are binding. But I don't know how binding it is as to take it to court. For example, Belize joined Samoa and some of the other small island states asking for an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice and also from ITLOS, which is the International Treaty on the Law of the Sea, to see whether or not we would be able to have a claim if something like that happened, right? And we already went through the ITLOS case, and now we are preparing for the ICJ case, where we are looking at the advisory opinion, and which is really just an advisory opinion. It doesn't take anybody to court. But I don't know if any country can really take another country to court. And then in this case, the way the Paris Agreement is framed, it doesn't specify country. It says developing states are supposed to get the funding from developed states, so it doesn't call a name.
Much of the world is waiting to see what changes Donald Trump will make when he takes office in January. One expected is for his administration to pull out of certain initiatives aimed at reducing the impact of climate change. Minister of Sustainable Development and Climate Change, Honorable Orlando Habet, was asked to comment on the possible impact on the fight against climate change.
It will be difficult to say, and I don't know if I am the one that has the authority to say. Maybe just from my interpretation and from what I'm listening to and reading and listening on the news is that we have seen that some of the people who are being named to the new administration are people who are not friendly to the cause for supporting the issues of climate change. Some of them don't believe in it, as a matter of fact. We know we have Project 2025 that speaks about possibility of moving out of the Paris Agreement, maybe ending some of the legislation that was passed by the previous U.S. administration, maybe some impact on support, like for example through USAID to countries like ours. But we really don't know. I think the new president, when he takes over, will really have to make, or after he names these people who will be in his administration, and whether or not on the first day and thereafter, whether or not they will really do what they were claiming to do just before the elections.
In police news, just after midnight Monday, shots were fired at the home of Police Corporal 35-year-old Martin Marin in the Finca Solana area of Curzal town. He was getting ready to go to bed at the time. When he heard 4 shots, he emerged from his cement bungalow house and heard a motorcycle rushing off. He then noticed that the vehicle of Inspector Kimara Lopez, who resides at the same address, had 2 bullet holes. The vehicle was parked inside their yard. There was also a bullet hole on the front wooden screen door of the house. They are reviewing surveillance footage. In recent weeks, it had been quite an ordeal to traverse St. Thomas Street in Belize City. But after months of dealing with large, numerous potholes, residents are happy that works to rehabilitate the major roadway have begun. This morning, Mayor of Belize City, Bernard Wagner, told the media that the council had no intention of rehabilitating the street since, he said, street conditions only started to deteriorate after BWS dug up the area.
It was a decent street prior to it being dug up by BWS. It was a decent street. That was never in our plan to rehabilitate that street. We have people living in worse conditions than on St. Thomas Street at that point in time, and so we didn't even had that as a planned street to rehabilitate. But one of the utilities companies, brought on by certain elements, went out ahead without approval from us, dug the street up, and that is when it went into a real sort of state that was we had to now step in, and then we stepped in, and along with the BWS, DJ and MIDH, we were able to. It's a street that is being funded by the city. It's just that they are paying upfront, and we offset over a period of 3 years. But at the end of the day, it's a street that is still being funded by the city, with the exception, of course, of MIDH, who really contributed close to 325,000 towards it.
So the utility companies are putting in roughly like
325. Each company has committed to 325,000. Again, it's a sort of collaborative effort, but so as not to really bring any stresses on the council cash flow over a 1 year period. We said we'll spread it over a 3 year period instead.
In other news, the William David Fonseca parking facility, which is located on Dame Manita Gordon Drive in downtown Belize City, was officially inaugurated this morning. The new facility boasts 34 parking spaces and electronic and cash payment options, as well as security and electric charging for e-vehicles. Parking in the new facility will cost $3 per hour. Mayor of Belize City, Bernard Wagner, said the new facility fills a need for the downtown area and that the feedback has been positive so far.
We were very proactive in getting this facility completed. I know it has been a long, drawn-out process, but we wanted to get it right. It will enhance off-street parking in the downtown area. It's a safe area. It is manned by cameras, fully automated. All the sort of modern, smart solutions are integrated into the system, so it should enhance the parking meters, which is kind of 2 sort of parking. You have off-street and on-street, and so the parking meters really facilitate on-street parking, and this would enhance off-street parking.
Do you believe that residents have the appetite for more paid parking?
Yes, they do. People visiting areas all across the city. This is our urban setting, and they are always driving around looking for parking, safe parking areas. People have that appetite. Romax parking lot has been doing great in this area, and so this will enhance Romax. There's always need for more parking, and I see where this first model will be expanded into all across the city. We have over 2,000 abandoned lots.
What's been the feedback from the stakeholders in the area?
Excellent. They have worked along with us. The court system has worked along with us. Brody's right here has worked along with us. DJ, the banking sector, they are on board with it. We have calls from many of the business sector really wanting to purchase cards for their staff. So it's a need in the downtown area.
The facility is named after the late William David Fonseca, who was the first elected mayor of Belize City. He first served as mayor in 1992 when the position was changed annually among the council members, and became the city's first elected mayor in 1999. Honorable Henry Charles Usher said it was an honor to be there for his friend.
Certainly it was an honor of mine to be here, to be a part of the opening ceremony for this parking lot, named in honor of William David Fonseca, a good friend of mine, a good friend of Fort George, a long-time supporter and committee member in the Fort George Division under the Right Honorable Said Musa, Ms. Yolanda Fonseca. His wife continues to be a committee member in Fort George, so it's just an honor for me to be here.
And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on this station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Marisol Amaya. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.